This is Eric with Nutrition by Eric. Today I'd like to share some information about terminology, especially the word organic. When is it useful? When is it important? And when should you look for it when you're buying food? Now, the word organic first came out, I think, about the 70s, somewhere around there, and it was used to, of course, make sure that to certify farmers that did the extra step of growing things without any pesticides, without any chemicals, and that's a certification. Over the years, that term um, changed as the criteria lowered. And when it first came out, you need to be about 90% organic. Then after time, it was 80. Then it was like 73. So the bar has been lowered a bit for various reasons. You know, you can guess that there are more neighboring farms that are not organic. It might blow in some of the chemicals onto the organic farms, whatever. So for produce, I think that's the term you want to look for. You can also look for this thing called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. It's from the EWG, Environmental Working Group, and they test produce to find what has the lowest pesticides. Often things with a hard skin, like a banana or an avocado, they don't get sprayed much, or if they do get sprayed, it's on the peel. So you're kind of a lot safer. You're going to not eat the peel. I've seen a goat eat a banana peel, but hopefully you're not a goat. So that's the term for produce, for your fruits, vegetables, and grain. Now let's talk about eggs and fish and meat. If you're eating eggs, you might think, well, look for organic too. It works for everything else. Well, not so fast. Now, think about a chicken and a hen specifically that lays eggs. Um, they don't normally eat what other animals eat, like a cow, for example. A cow is a vegetarian, just pretty much grass and other grains, and that's it. But a chicken can eat grains as well, can also eat insects, bugs, crickets, grasshoppers, and of course, juicy worms, at least juicy to them. So it's interesting when I see at the supermarket, I see a lot of terms on cartons of eggs. It may say nothing. You may have seen those, at least in the U.S., those inexpensive ones that are like in like a kind of a cheap feeling pink container, pink styrofoam container. I'm like, what is this? This is just always the cheap egg container. And and then you'll see terms like free range or vegetarian feed or organic, and then pastured. Like, well, which one's the best? Well, usually the most expensive one, which is pastured. Pastured. Um, so what you find is uh, the chickens seem to lay more eggs when it's dark. So when you have free range, it sounds great. They're out in nature. They're out doing their thing. But no, from what I've learned, free range is just they're kind of in a warehouse, and they can be up to receiving 23 hours of darkness and 1 hour of sunlight, because they find when they're in a dark environment, they lay more eggs. So that's your free range. And you depend maybe on the company. That's just what I read the last time I read it. And then vegetarian feed, I don't know why they make a big deal. Maybe because they're using probably cheap soybean feed. I think that's the cheapest feed you can get, and it's probably genetically modified soybean feed. So it doesn't really, even though it may sound appealing, vegetarian feed, great. Well, no, that's not mimicking their diet, and you really don't want anything that consumes genetically modified food. So that going up the terminology food chain, the hierarchy, if you were, that there's probably another term I'm forgetting, but the top of the line, the gold standard, is pastured eggs. That means they're really in an environment that is most suitable for them. They're probably getting full sunlight or as much sunlight as they can. They may be in a kind of like a five-sided, kind of like a cage, but like a chain link enclosure is a better word, enclosure. And I've seen this in Northern California, where an enclosure was made that protected them all on 5 sides, but they had access to the ground, and they could just peck at whatever they find on that patch that they had access to, and then the farmer could throw some feed, some organic feed. That would be the grain to supplement. And when that was used up, they would move that container, that enclosure rather, to another area. And you should see a pastured egg if the yolk is really orange. That's really, you got the good stuff. Okay, so now let's talk about the other in the animal world, with fish and chicken, turkey, pork, beef. So let's start with fish. If you eat fish, you might think, well, what's the best word? What should I look for? Well, there's lots of stuff, unfortunately, in the ocean. Between mercury and trash, and the idea of farmed. You think, oh, farmed. Farm sounds nice. Well, I like a farm. Farm sounds like a great place. Give me a home. Give me a home where the buffalo roam, and kind of stuff. You think, well, but wait a minute. What's on a farm? You ever see a fish on a farm? Only if it was caught from the ocean or a lake. You never see. You do, but you see like wild. That's the word, or sea caught, or lake caught. I never saw lake caught fish, actually, now that I think about it. But I don't know many fish that live on farms unless it's like a pond. So little humor there, but hope you see where I'm going with this. So a farm may just be a big container. They're just trying to spin. It's a marketing term, like all natural, by the way, means absolutely nothing. It's a marketing term. It can be tons of chemicals. They can say all natural. It doesn't. You have to know what things mean to really know what you're getting. So if you see farmed fish, I avoid. Now I have seen sushi, and I ask them, is it farmed? Usually the question is it farmed or is it wild? That's the question I ask. And there's a sustainability website, a little fold-out thing you might see if you have friends that are really into holistic, healthy eating. There's a little thing that fits in your wallet, and it folds out. It tells you if it's mackerel, this, and if it's tuna, that. Or if it's swordfish, don't eat it because it's endangered, and don't eat shark fin because it's horrible. They just cut off the shark fin and they just let the shark go about its way, and it's just a cruel thing. But I digress. So the best, if you're getting fish, is the term wild. And I've seen, let's say salmon. Salmon's one thing I like to go for. I like to choose, and I don't eat it a whole lot, usually because it's price, or if I'm not living near a coast, I'm concerned if it's being trucked in, it's a lot of gas, and it's just not as good as unless you live near a coastal area, or you have a supplier that is really good about shipping. So wild salmon, I usually have learned you want it in a cold water, which is the West Coast, the Pacific side. And the Atlantic salmon, well, the waters are not as clean there, and so I always shoot for wild. And if I can choose the Pacific salmon, I know you have to get this day and age, you have to get a little detailed if you want good food. The things I read, just between mercury in food and tuna and parasites. I don't want to take my chances on that stuff. So that's the term for fish, and you can do further research and look for documentaries. There's lots of documentaries that explains this. Okay, now let's talk about if you're going to do land mammals, meats. Let's go back to chickens and duck and turkey in the fowl world, not the sports fowl, but in the food fowl world, and pork and beef or buffalo. So with chicken, usually, to be honest, it's pastured is probably the best, but I usually go, if I'm going to get chicken, I just get a whole cooked chicken from like a healthy grocery store, like Sprouts or Whole Foods. Sometimes I get it from other grocery stores, and I don't know what it is. I just get it because it's for like $8, $5, $6, it's like $7 to $10. You get an entire cooked chicken, and it's hot, and it's ready to go. So I don't get too. I could probably split hairs and get more detailed about it, but I don't get so caught up. I don't remember the last time I cooked chicken, to be honest. Okay, let's skip over to pork. Now, pork, the thing you want to watch out for is, of course, the feed. I think they're more omnivore. I think they can eat just about anything. The old saying, "Eat like a pig." Oh, I didn't. Lamb, by the way, lamb and goat. Just if I think, I'm trying to remember those. Just a quick mental reminder. So pork, the thing is, I've seen with pork is that when it's a small baby pig, it's a piglet, right? Another side note, a lot of these animals get shots. That's something. That's not. And now the new thing is that they're getting vaccines. So there's so much to keep up with it, with how they're raised, how um, if they're given shots, um, uh, you know, the feed. What do they get? What are they given to eat? So there's how much crowding. If they're really crowded, they can give off stress hormones. A lot of people say this might be harder to prove that the stress hormones come off of the meat and they're in the meat, and then you might pick them up and you might affect your mood. So there's lots of factors. It's really very interesting. It makes you want to think, I just need to be on a farm or live near a farm. That's why you go to farmers markets, by the way. So we covered chicken. That kind of goes for turkey. Um, as this, you can just go to a healthy-minded grocery store. We have co-ops. Um, there's Wheatsville Co-op if you're in Central Texas. There is it's a part of a chain, co-op, or I can't think of it. CSA Communities I can't even think of the term. Community source agriculture. That's another kind of concept. I don't see them around here, but so in your fowl world, just try to find. You actually can try to trace down the farm it came from, and see if you can contact them, see how they're raised, see what they were given to eat, see how crowded the animals are, see if they have a sustainability certification or something. Okay, so now back to pig. That's what we were on. Now a piglet. Now they get so much space. They get like a cage. I don't know if it's the same cage your whole life, but I've seen where they have a cage. They start with a little baby pig, and then they get really big. And you want to make sure another thing for animals, they don't get treated with growth hormones, unless you like that. You want free steroids. I don't know. Not treated with antibiotics, because animals, when they give antibiotics, it's on the cow side, it messes up their stomach, and they want to eat more. And I've heard they're given antibiotics even if they're not sick, because they're intentionally messing up their bellies, so they just feel like eating more. It's just kind of cruel. All right, try to stay on pigs. So pigs, as they get bigger, they start to fit the size of the cage they're in. So after a while, when they get so big, they can't turn around their whole day. They're just, they're boxed in. And that's usually called a gestation crate, or just the word crate. I know Applegate Farms is one brand that I believe they say humanely raised, or they say, no crates were used. I think that's, let's be honest. We know we're not raising these animals to be pets. We know they are ultimately food, so even though we're not maybe that concerned, but I think they should have a best life, and it's best for us too, as possible. Again, I'm not a farmer. If you know more about this than I, if you have some interesting insight, go ahead and share that. I'm just sharing what I've done, what I've learned from my research and my nutrition schooling. So, most pork, very, very few, besides Applegate Farms and a few others, I think, will say gestation crate free, or, crates were not used. So they had space to, they can at least live the life they could while they were around. So that's the thing. I usually, I even go to, if you go to Walmart, even, you can find this, you can find the Applegate pork bacon, but you usually find it in a separate area from all the other bacon. It's frozen, and that's a good brand, I think. Applegate. I just bought some the other day, and they have like turkey sausages, all humanely raised, and I think that's real nice again. Okay, so that takes care of up to the pork so far. Now on to beef. Now, so we talked about chickens. They're kind of eat a little bit of bugs and insects and stuff, and grain. And pigs can eat also all kinds of stuff. They can eat just about anything, I believe. But cows have 4 stomachs, and they are vegetarian. They don't eat meat. Maybe they catch a few bugs unintentionally when they're eating what they eat, but by and large, it's ideally grass, and often they're given grain or corn. Why? It's cheaper and it fattens them up. There's other factors involved. I only know a few. Like that they are crowded and they're given these weird shots, and then other shots which are vaccines that might be given, and there's a whole thing about the packaging. If it says package of the U.S., it could be not from the U.S. It could just be packed in. It could just be put in a bag or in a container in the U.S. But that's another. So there's lots of interesting things in the food world and many other worlds and many other categories in life. But food especially, there's lots of funny business. Okay, so I look for grass-fed if I'm going to get beef, and I just get ground beef, because that's the one animal you can eat a little bit more on the rare or raw side. I usually don't go for raw chicken or raw pork. Raw fish you can do, right? That's sushi. That's well known. Or ceviche, which is similar, the Latin version with lemon. You could do a raw egg. Rocky did it, right? If all know who Rocky is, and how he drank a bunch of eggs and said, "Adrian." But yeah, I usually do, very rare burger and grass fed. And if you look up what organic beef is, it just means they were given kind of a blend, maybe some grain, maybe some grass, maybe some other stuff. So even you might see the word organic and grass fed or Wagyu and all that. Unless it says grass fed, and even sometimes I see organic grass fed, which I even haven't dug, but hopefully that means the grass was organic and the animal had the least amount of alteration, no shots, lots of clean water. You'd hope. It's hard to know all the details, and we take our chances sometimes. So that about covers it. There's more exotic things. There's elk and venison. There is a company called Ancestral something. You can find them at Whole Foods and other healthy grocery stores, and they seem to have very kind of almost exotic meats. Unless you're a hunter, you can go out and shoot your own, of course. But those are some of the typical meats, right? You would find around the world. It's usually fish, chicken, pork, beef, eggs, sometimes duck, turkey. Those are the typical meats. I saw at a health food store around here, they had quail, but had sodium nitrite. I'm like, why would they put that in the food? So you want to avoid that too. So do a little research. I recommend if you want to eat healthy. Do detoxes if you've eaten stuff that hasn't been so healthy. Hopefully you have a good immune system and it's gone out of you. But if not, detoxing and other cleanses are a good way to make up for the past choices. Also look into Weston Price. That organization really opened my eyes. Learning what our ancestors or people you would call primitives, and this is people I admire. Primitive cultures means they figured it out on their own, and they eat things more organ meats, heart, liver, gallbladders. A lot of Latin cultures have menudo, which is made with tripe, the stomach linings of beef and maybe other animals, which are not so common here. So there's a lot to eat out there, and whether you're vegetarian or not, or you eat kind of like I do, where sometimes I will eat throughout the week. I'll have a vegan meal or vegetarian meal and some meat. I kind of mix it up, or I may go for a month or 2 or 3 of no meat, so I kind of have a meat fast. But if I do eat meat, I try to make sure I have a lot of other things, like vegetables and fruits and grains and yogurt. Vegan yogurt I like a lot. And yeah, try to have the best diet you can, and work with someone, a health coach or functional medicine doctor or nutritionist if you want to learn more. But if you're shopping your own, hopefully the information I just shared with you should help you make more of an informed decision. And if you don't see some of the things I've mentioned, talk to your grocers. A lot of times they will be interested in sourcing things that they know would sell, and you can educate your community, your family, so people are more on board. Okay, so that hopefully explains some of the myths and helps with the food wording, the terminology, so you could make better choices when you're out there at the grocery store. Okay, now if you also want some help, please check out some of my links. There's a machine I use called the Spooky 2. It's a wonderful machine to help identify. I have to probably say disclaimer, I'm not a medical doctor, I am a health coach, but I'm just saying things that work for me, things I've been interested in. This is not medical advice. So with that being said, the Spooky 2 is a very interesting machine. I have several of these units. They can be used to gain insight of what possibly may be going on in your body. And it should have a link of that in that description. Also, for those of you on the podcast, I'm trying a double whammy this time. I'm trying to make a video and turn it into a podcast later. Please continue to listen and watch and check my social media links. I have some of the standard ones, the well-known ones, and the lesser well-known ones. And I like Telegram a lot. You can find me there. Almost everything is Nutrition by Eric, under the handle, code name, whatever. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching, listening, and I hope you take action on this information and it helps you and your family. Until next time, take care.